Well, we have actually been filming for 3 weeks. Right now we're on our 3rd episode, and we have many of the same directors back from last year. Gwyneth Horder-Payton, who directed the 3rd episode last year, is directing the 1st episode of the season, and Ernest Dickerson, who directed the 5th episode, is directing episodes 2 and 3. And we also have new additions to the writing staff. Frank Darabont wrote the 1st episode. Robert Kirkman, who created the comic book series, wrote the 2nd episode. And our new writing staff includes Glenn Mazzara, who wrote the 5th episode last year, and he's head writer under Frank Darabont. And we have Scott Gimple. We have David Leslie Johnson writing a freelance, who wrote Orphan and also wrote I'm sorry. I think it's Red Riding Hood. And then we have Evan Riley, who comes to us from Rescue Me, the Dennis Leary series. And we also have Angela Kang, who was writing Terriers for Sean Ryan. Frank and Stephen King have spoken, and what will probably happen next year, because his writing schedule didn't work out for it this year, is that Stephen would collaborate with his son, Joe Hill, to write an episode. So should we get picked up for next year, we're eager to have Stephen King and Joe Hill write an episode. You know, you don't take anything for granted. If the fans watch the show and are just as enthusiastic as they were last year, I think you'll see us back on the air. I think it's really important, as you know, because our TV series started out as a comic book. These are the fans that were there when Robert Kirkman debuted the comic book in 2003, and they've been with it through thick and thin. It was awarded the Eisner Award last year as Best Continuing Series, and it was very important for us to always be present at Comic-Cons and to be able to interact with the fans, so that it's not just something that they see on the television screen, but they're able to meet me or Frank Darabont or the cast or Robert Kirkman, Greg Nicotero, our terrific makeup special effects expert. You know, we're also geeks. We're also comic book fans ourselves, and you know, so we go to Comic-Con even when we're not on the panels to attend other panels and to interact with the comic writers and artists at the booths. You know, you're always concerned that the fans who appreciate it in that medium may have a different reaction when it's translated to a television series or a feature film. But our secret weapon is Robert Kirkman. And it was absolutely critical that Robert Kirkman not only lend his name to the series, but be involved every day. And so he's not only executive producer, he's a writer. He's in the writer's room, as we call it, breaking story with the other writers every day. He's on set when his episode is in production. He is involved in every casting decision. He's involved in the post-production process. So it's very much a shared vision between Frank Darabont and Robert Kirkman. So I think, you know, when the creator says, listen, this is the vision that I have for this series, it, I think, puts the fans at ease that we haven't taken advantage, we haven't taken it in a different direction. It's the direction that, as an adaptation, the creator wanted to see. You know, the first thing that, if you read the forums and the boards, that the fans of the comic series were concerned about was, is this going to be graphic the way that the comic book series was? are they going to water it down for television and, you know, make something that's TV friendly? And when we first went into AMC and we talked with Fox International, we said, listen, we're going to be true to the comic book. And we're pretty much going to make that clear in the first 10 minutes of the show. And in the first 10 minutes of the series, a little girl zombie is killed by our lead character, by Rick Grimes, you know, and, you know, her bunny slippers go up in the air, her little teddy bear goes flying. And, you know, if someone was concerned that we might not go for it, I think those concerns were allayed immediately. You know, we are also airing in certain countries on free television. So I know we're on Channel 5 in the UK. I know that we air on, I think, free TV in Spain and other countries. So I think each country has different standards and practices for their free and their cable and satellite channels. But I think the difference here is that the violence is happening primarily to zombies, and they're already dead. So we're kind of putting them out of their misery. You know, and something that my husband pointed out to me, Jonathan Hensley, he said, you know, all of these storylines have been on soap operas in the middle of the day from the very beginning. So if you actually watch soap operas, you're watching something that you may not even think, you know, you'd be able to get away with at 10 o'clock at night. You know, the pirates, they were pretty violent characters. So it's not the Johnny Depp version of pirates. It's the real pirates, and some of them were pretty brutal. So it won't be done gratuitously, but it will be to serve the storytelling and to bring those characters to life. Well, that's why it's Port Royal, because it was actually the pirate capital, and it was on shore. It was on the island of Jamaica. So we have pirates coming in and out of the series. We don't have to be on the water every day. Believe me, I made The Abyss. We called it, when we were making it, The Abuse. So I know how difficult it is working with water. So there will be, you know, ships at sea probably in every episode, but it won't be the entire episode. Yes, I am a geek from the very beginning. From the time that I was small, I had an older brother, and I always read his comic books. So that's why I've made films like The Hulk. I read science fiction and fantasy and horror novels. I reviewed them for the local newspaper. I actually recommended books for the local library, the public library, to add to their their young adult collection. And you know, so I've always been a fan, long before it was popular, long before, you know, you could actually wear your geek badge with pride. You had to be a closet geek. So, you know, so it's lucky that the kinds of films that I've always wanted to make became mainstream and popular, and now the films that all the studios want to make. Yes, Arsenal. Well, you know, Bend It Like Beckham was very successful. So, you know, I certainly think there's room for that. Right now, I haven't quite figured out how to marry my avocation of being a soccer fan to my vocation of being a film and television producer. But, you know, one day maybe the perfect project will come along and I'll be able to convince financiers to back it. There are many shows that I'm a big fan of. I love Breaking Bad, which is also on AMC. I think it's tremendous. I love Treme, which is on HBO. I'm a big fan of Sean Ryan's series, and because I've been working, there are miniseries that I haven't been able to see. So. It's very tough when you create a project. It's almost like having your child being adopted by somebody else, and you see them parenting a little bit differently, maybe than you would have. I would have loved to have been involved in that, but unfortunately, the rights were sold in bankruptcy court, and I couldn't afford to buy them. So, but I was a very big fan of the series. I think they did a wonderful job. This interesting question, because of the success of The Walking Dead, there are more series now that you'll see on the air that make that leap. The background of the series is that Frank Darabont initially wrote a pilot for the free broadcast network NBC. When the script was delivered, they said, "Wait, this is about zombies," and there's violence, and zombies aren't sexy like vampires. So they passed on it. Well, the interesting thing is when the series debuted, we actually had higher ratings, even though we were on cable with a much more limited audience than any of the new dramatic series that NBC launched. So the broadcast networks took notice, and now they're much more open to different types of storytelling and not just typical procedurals. So hopefully, we'll be seeing a lot of really interesting television, I think, in the future. And to be honest, having worked in both film and TV, I think the best storytelling now is primarily on television. They're not so sexy. Although when I was watching TV in my hotel room this morning, there's a dating site for zombies. I don't know. I don't know quite how many zombies are aware enough to watch TV and then date, but I guess it's an underserved minority. But I'm sorry, what was the question? Oh yes, it's interesting. Certainly, there is a zombie series now that's going to be on the CW, and also we've got Pride and Prejudice with zombies that's getting made. World War Z, which I'm particularly very much looking forward to. Also, in the pipeline with Brad Pitt. So I think there will be a lot of zombies in the next couple of years. I think that George Romero. I think that I also think that Zack Snyder's film was very good. I loved Zombieland, The Crazies. I think there've been a lot of very good zombie projects. When something is aired on TV, though, somehow it has, and especially in 130 channels around the world, at the 130 countries around the world, that it has an even bigger global impact. And I think that did help spread the zombie love. Zombies are a very good hook to get audiences interested, but I think they stay for the human stories. And this season, because we have 13 episodes, last season we only had 6, we can really delve into each character a lot more than we could last year when we were setting up the world. And I know that Andy Lincoln, who plays the character Rick Grimes, was delighted because this season he's already had a day off, and last year he had none. Thank you. Thank you.